Did you get out to vote last week in the primary? Better said, did you vote last month in the primary? For better or for worse, elections in Utah have changed. It's not the nominating process, not the parties, not the keep my this or count my that. What is different is the way we vote. Utah is now among the ranks of 22 states in the country that use vote by mail as a primary balloting process in some level of public elections. Utah has fully embraced the idea. By many states, we're considered to be an innovator in this area. But change always has skeptics, and new ways of doing things always have hiccups. Vote by mail is no exception. When Duchesne County first considered vote by mail back in 2010, the big challenge was address verification. They had to work with the post office to get it figured out. Today, the hurdle in some of our elections around the state has been verification of ballots. So, vote by mail becomes our topic today on the county seat. We start with the process of vote by mail with Rhea in the basics.
Did you know that about half the states in the U.S. have moved to some kind of vote by mail balloting? While Utah is relatively a newcomer to vote by mail, the first known record of vote by mail was in Australia in 1877. So it's not new, and in fact has grown into a very sophisticated and safe process. So, in case you've been living under a rock lately or you haven't taken the time to learn how it works, here are a few things to consider about voting by mail. First, vote by mail is convenient. Taking time to vote requires nothing more than sitting down in the privacy of your own home and filling out the ballot. If you want to learn more about the candidates or the ballot initiatives, you have a chance to check them out while your ballot is in front of you. It has potential to make you a much better informed voter. The Lieutenant Governor's election site, vote.utah.gov, can offer a lot more help that way. By Utah law, all 29 counties can conduct all elections by mail, but they don't have to. This year, one Utah county decided to go from mail-in ballots back to polling place ballots. The county made the move in an attempt to transition to all mail-in voting in a more cost-effective way. Second, how secure is voting by mail? Actually, it's quite secure. The biggest concern election officials have is that the guaranteed privacy of the ballot box is not with you at home. Election officials are more concerned about this than any other kind of vote fraud. All vote-by-mail ballots are verified against your actual signature and kept in secure storage while not being processed. How to access those ballots varies from county to county, but all have transparency procedures in place to make sure no one cheats. Processing includes the verification of signatures and postmarks, removing the inner security envelope from the outer envelope, and then removing the ballot from the inner envelope. This is done to make sure that no one can tell who you voted for. At this point, ballots are separated from the record of the voter. Third, when are ballots mailed? Your ballot is mailed about 3 weeks before Election Day. Your ballot packet will include a ballot, a secrecy envelope, and a return envelope, along with instructions. Your ballot must be postmarked no later than the day before Election Day or returned to a ballot drop box on Election Day. You can check the status of your ballot by logging into vote.utah.gov. Finally, I like voting in person. Can I still go to the polls? Yes, you can. Each county opens at least one voting center prior to each primary, special election, and general election. Each voting center is open during business hours during the voting period, which begins 18 days before and ends at 8 p.m. on the day of election. There is so much to cover about how votes are counted. We will get to that later in the show. Up next, Chad will discuss the pros and cons of mail balloting from a county government perspective. For the county seat, I'm Rhea Rossi Booth.
Antelope Island State Park. Think of it as a treasure island because of the unique activities and treasured experiences you'll enjoy there. The 25th annual Antelope by Moonlight Bike Ride is coming to Antelope Island State Park Friday, July 27th at White Rock Bay. Tailgate party begins at 7:30 p.m. Bike ride begins at 10 p.m. under a full moon. Register now by going to antelopebymoonlight.com. Discover nature, buffalo, historic Gar Ranch, and more at Antelope Island State Park. Visit plaindavis.com/antelope today.
All local products have a story of magical places, real people, and delicious recipes spanning generations. So go ahead and discover flavors you've never tasted and friends you never knew you had. Utah's own Discover Local Food.
What would you do with an extra day in Utah Valley? Explore the Wasatch Mountains? Snap a family photo at Bridal Veil Falls. Cool off on Utah Lake or the Provo River. No matter what you're searching for, you can find it in Utah Valley. Bring everyone together.
Welcome back to the county seat. Our topic today is mail-in voting. As we learned a little bit earlier in the show, mail-in balloting is not new. It's been around for, well over 100, almost 150 years at this point. So we are going to talk about the phenomenon here in Utah. Joining us to give us an administrative perspective on mail voting, we have two of our county clerks, Elena Lofgren from Juab County, the clerk auditor there, and Curtis Koch, who is the clerk auditor of Davis County, just to the north of us. Davis County and Duchesne County were the first two counties to really delve into the idea of doing all mail. And most counties had some provisional balloting, absentee balloting that was done by mail, but your two counties really kind of pioneered this. Could you see this as being the way to the future early on when your county started?
I think so. Our reasons for doing this were to help remove barriers to voters, help bring the people their ballot with as few obstacles as possible. Mm-hmm. And so as we started this, that was the goal. And we've seen that. And we continue to see that, and I think that's why you're seeing it spread across the state. It allows voters to research topics, candidates. It brings them an opportunity to engage at a level that they traditionally didn't have using the old system.
Davis is one of our top counties. You're Class 2, you're at the top of the county food chain. Now, Elena, your county is not at the top of the food chain. Was this financially a heavy lift for you guys to make a switch from voting machines over to mail-in balloting?
This was actually a good change for us. It's actually cheaper to do the mail-in vote versus the machines. The machines that we had were getting kind of expensive to maintain, and this has really made a difference in our county as far as financial-wise.
Did you feel kind of funny? Just, like there are a couple of counties that switched to mail, and they just spent like millions of dollars on new machines. And it's like, oh well, I guess that's gone. Was that a factor or consideration in looking at it? Is looking at where you'd just come from? We
had a system that needed to be replaced, and we had used the old system to implement this vote by mail approach. And so the new system, it's far more cost effective. When we're fully implemented, we'll have, I would say, 700 fewer voting machines. Those voting machines are expensive, and the staffing to run those, the poll places, those are very expensive, and so we've actually seen cost savings as well. The overall benefit financially is to the taxpayer, and you increase their access to the ballot. It really is a win-win scenario.
How do the people feel about it? I remember having a conversation with Duchesne County, this is before you guys even tried, and their number one complaint they were getting from citizens across rural Duchesne County, and that's the reason they went, is because their communities are so spread apart. But their number one comment that they were getting is, I like to go vote. It's like a social event for me, and they were mad because it was being taken away from them. They couldn't go to the polling place. Have you encountered any of that in Juab County?
We have. We've had a few people, they'll say they like to go to the polling place, but then after they come in and they see what the process we go through and how the mail-in ballots are actually handled, I think they're quite pleased with that.
Does anybody worry that their ballot's not going to show up?
Yeah, I think so, and I think that's a reasonable concern. Everybody wants to know that their vote counted, and so they have the ability to go and make sure that their ballots have been received, and we want to make sure that that people feel comfortable with it. I think it's funny, you mentioned in rural counties this social event, and even in Davis County, I've heard a couple of people mention that, but the big issue has been they want the I voted sticker. It's the sticker more than the social aspect of it. And so, having said that, when I talk to the general public, people love vote by mail. You can sit at your computer at home, you can research the topics, you can research the candidates, and cast a ballot that is truly your ballot. If you're blindsided by a race, you don't know what to do, you're not leaving it blank, you're not saying, maybe. You have the opportunity, and that's what people love about it. We have busy schedules. Things are getting busier and busier. Vote by mail simply gives people opportunity to put voting, a very important function, into their schedule.
Is voter turnout up in Juab County significantly?
It is. In the primary races, prior years, the percentages were down, but since we did the mail-in ballots, our percentage, even in a primary, is up. I believe it was 67% this last election.
With one county's exception in Utah, in the primary elections that just happened a short while ago, results and winners were being called within an hour of the close of the election. Is that partly because of how you tabulate the process, or do you not touch those ballots when they come in until Election Day? How does that work?
As ballots start to come in, we start to process them. There's several security processes that we go through, and we're scanning those ballots. They are not tabulated until 8 o'clock when the polls close. Then we'll calculate and tabulate. But because we're able to do a lot of that work 2 weeks, a week leading up, election night, we can release those initial results quickly. 8:30, you're putting out the numbers of everybody that's voted.
Not too long ago, some of the Wasatch Front counties, I don't know, maybe it was 2 or 3 elections ago, they weren't getting final results out until almost canvass day. It was like there were still things that were not, the close races were still being collected. Does this system help improve on that?
It does. In Juab County, we're kind of like Curtis. We tabulate our ballots probably a couple of days before, and then we do it on Election Day after the polls close. And I mean, we're done by 8:30. After the polls close on that Election Day, we were finished by 8:30.
So citizens and candidates need to realize close races aren't determined by the method of the election. If it's a close race, it's a close race, and the end of the election is the canvass. And so, yeah, we're able to release results more quickly on election night, but there are still going to be ballots that come in at the polling locations, and we want to make sure we take the same security measures and process those with the same care that we've processed everything before. So we'll still be releasing up till the end, and a close race is a close race, and that's I think it should give candidates maybe some assurance and some confidence. Hey, if it's a close race, it's going to be done right. And that's why the canvass is so important.
There are still some people who are coming in to vote in person. They're bringing their ballots in to the ballot box on Election Day instead of putting them in the mail. Some people vote early. In mail-in, I've done it both ways. I've waited till Election Day because I was still trying to figure some stuff out, and I've had my mind made up and took care of it like the day I got the ballot. But my question is, what percentage of your populations, respectively, still are coming in to vote in person?
Off the top of my head, I'd say, and this is off the top of my head, 10%. But I think that's probably even high. But even if they do come in, that's great. Fill out your ballot, use all the advantages of being able to research the candidates and issues at home. Fill out that ballot, walk into a polling location, drop it and go. Walk and drop is what we tell people. Please come in. If you want to come and have a polling place experience, great. Walk and drop.
Do you have to turn your ballot in if you want to actually go to the machine and vote?
No.
Okay. So one last question for both of you. Do you feel that your communities, your counties, are in all better citizens and a better voting process because we made this shift?
I do. I think Juab County's doing really well with the mail-in ballots. The percentage is increased. It's cheaper for Juab County. We've had a lot of participation with the young voters, the college kids, the kids on missions, and it's actually been really good for Juab County.
Absolutely, 100%. It has been an improvement for the citizens. It's been an improvement for the administration. We would encourage people, make sure they sign their own ballot. You can't sign your missionaries or you can't sign your spouses. We do check every signature, but sign your own ballot, and yes, this has been a huge improvement for everybody involved from where I sit.
So is there any risk of coercion? Because people are now balloting in their homes.
As much as there was before.
You don't think that's changed any? Because that's an argument I hear a lot.
Yeah, and I think with checking the signatures, you know, that's the security we have, is that the signatures don't match. We contact those people, and so that is a high security, I think.
So if you were coerced, sign your name funny, and then they'll call you to find out what the, oh, there you go.
We'll call, yes.
Yeah, we will call.
There you go. Yet another security measure. Hey, you two, thank you so much for joining us today. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Chad.
You ever wondered what it looks like in the election room? Well, that's what we'll see next when we come back on the county seat.
Look south to adventure. Look south to beauty. Look south to San Juan County. Out here, the road goes on forever, and what you'll find will change how you see the world. Climb on your OHV and discover forgotten landscapes and vistas that challenge the imagination. From Blanding and Monticello to the cliff faces of Monument Valley, we're open and ready for you to explore. San Juan County, Utah's Canyon Country.
There's a little place on a Utah map where I was raised, where my heart's at, where the sagebrush grows wild and high, and the stars come out at night. Oh, there ain't nothing like being raised in the basin with a Ute reservation, skiing starvation, that Duchesne County life.
If you're looking for gold at the end of the rainbow, you'll probably be disappointed, because in Paiute County, the only thing you'll find at the end of a rainy day is the promise of adventure. Highway 89 is your access point through Marysville and the historic trails of Bouillon Canyon. Find yourself in the mountains one minute and the desert the next as you follow in the footsteps of the pioneers. Whitewater raft, fish, hike, all within a few minutes of a comfortable bed and a warm meal. Find out why the world has made Paiute County its off-road destination. Paiute County, the place where the rainbow ends.
Welcome back to the county seat. So far today, we have looked at vote by mail from the kitchen table and from the administrative and policy side. What we haven't examined is how the workflow has changed come election night. Has the process of vote by mail changed the frenetic super event of election night into a simple custodial task of picking up the loose ends, sweeping out the corners, and pushing the tabulate button for the final results? Well, that is where we look next as we go behind the scenes and on the ground in the counting room.
Well, I think one of the most profound examples of a better turnout with vote-by-mail elections is the comparison when we did traditional polling places for the cities. In 2013, all but 2 cities were traditional polling places, and the turnout for the same types of races was only 25.8%. And we did all the cities vote by mail in 2017. Again, the same types of races, mayoral races, and the turnout was over 40%.
We used to do it manually, and that just would not work with being vote by mail. But we've had to bring in an agility equipment machine, which we tab when we get the ballots in, we tab the envelope out to reveal the signature, and we run it through the machine. The machine will actually scan the ballot, so it's capturing the signature, and it's also giving credit to the voter for returning their ballot.
The Agilis machine allows us to scan upwards of 16,000 ballots per hour, and in doing so, it actually performs several functions. The first, as it passes through the machine, is that it scans the barcode on the envelope so that we're able to track every ballot that goes through and are able to give the voter credit for voting. One of the first things that happens as we feed the ballots through the machine is that it passes this scanner, which takes an image of it where everything's moving through at an incredibly high speed. So we're able to upload the part of the ballot with the signature to our signature verification software.
The working environment with vote by mail has made the process a lot better. In the past, we had about 320 polling places on election day, that you'd have about 3,300 poll workers that we'd have to hire and train and get ready, where now we have 20 to 40 depending on the election. So you're looking about 70 to maybe 100 poll workers per election that you need to train. With the processes that we've been able to bring in with the Agilis equipment and the OPEX equipment and the signature verification on the computer screens, it has made it a lot more efficient. And it's not such a manual process anymore that takes so much time. The future of vote by mail ballot, I do see that it will continue to increase. People really seem to like having their ballot mailed to them. Vote their ballot whenever they want to. They can have time to research. It has really increased the turnout.
Of Utah's 29 counties holding elections this voting cycle, 25 of them have opted to vote by mail. Salt Lake County has a population of 1.1 million people. Daggett County, a population of 1.1 thousand. Both of them are using the same system for vote tabulation. It's just that Daggett County has a much smaller version. We'll be right back with our final thoughts on the county seat.
For 7 years, Utah's Community Voice has been the county seat, a program that looks beyond politics to spotlight the issues and stories that really matter to you and your community. Now you can help set Utah's agenda for the future by joining the conversation. Become a county seat sponsor and help support those conversations that are critical to the future of state government. Contact us at 801-947-8888 to make your contribution to help the voice of Utah be heard like never before.
In a place that is beyond words, there is nothing to be said, except take your time in Bryce Canyon country.
Too often we find ourselves in shoes like these, or these. Wouldn't it be nice to change into something more like this, or this? How about these? Put on whatever shoes you prefer and come to Beaver County. We have exactly the adventure you need to put under them. So the next time you want to change out of these, come to Beaver County where you can jump into a pair of these. Beaver County, Utah. Lace up for adventure.
Welcome back to the county seat. You know, we are lucky to live in a state that embraces innovation in areas such as elections and balloting. Vote by mail is generally considered to be more cost-effective than polling places, voting machines, and poll workers. Results tabulate much quicker, and verification has been made unique and simple. And it is by far more convenient to vote at home than to make sure you are on hand to vote at the polling place on Election Day. There are a few other things to consider as well. We have access to information to research our voting choices while the ballot's right in front of us, eliminating that conundrum of voting without fully understanding what we're voting for. We seem to lessen the nefarious tactic also of the October surprise, where candidates will hold a negative comment on an opponent until there's not enough time for the opponent to defend their position. Finally, the finality of it. It was not too many voting cycles ago that some close races took weeks to tabulate, even for a first count. Voter intent was often hard to discern. A written ballot and an electronic record of it clears up that quite easily, as we've learned today. And it has dramatically boosted the number of people who actually participate in elections. But that does leave a question. With all of these conveniences in this new process, will we change our voting habits? You see, I know that the first time the vote-by-mail ballots came in, it sat unopened on my counter until 3 days before the election. I did not leave myself enough time to fully vet all those I was tasked to consider for office. I did not become a better citizen because my habits had not changed. This year, I was more responsible and invested a fair amount of time to dig deep into the list of candidates. And I hope that you have that same experience too. Just because there are more of us voting doesn't make voting better if we remain ill-informed in the process. That's my 2 cents for the county seat this week. I invite you to follow us and comment on social media. We value your opinion about the things we cover each week, whether you agree or disagree. So speak up and we will look for you next week on the county seat.